playing with your speed racer car?
Mach 6.
Mach 6. I'm watching the other screen, so when I see it go live, we'll be ready to roll. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. We got Armany living his best life, living childhood right now with his speed racer diecast there.
Best racing movie of all time.
I said I'll pass. Cars might be the great. I don't know what the greatest racing movie is of all time. There's so many good ones I probably haven't seen. I know people love Days of Thunder. I just need to go back and watch it. I probably haven't watched Days of Thunder in 20 years. I'm sure I've watched it because I remember seeing scenes of it. It's been so long. In my adult life, I haven't watched it. But anyways, here we are in studio again. Not really in studio, kind of wherever we are. Armani finally in his room for once. Me in my bland wall that I use every time. So anyways, today, we just a little bit of a show rundown. We're going to first talk about Michigan, give a preview, give a review, all that kind of stuff about Michigan. Unfortunately, both of us were pretty much working the actual Cup race. So I saw a couple laps of it at the dirt track where I was because I left here, I think at 4:15-ish. Obviously, that race went air like a little after 5, so I was at the dirt track. So I watched a couple laps of it, but didn't see a ton. In the Road America, I saw the longest green or red flag run. It felt like an eternity. But kicking it off, though, so we're going to start there. We'll give a little playoff update, and then we will play ship or dip. And then later, I may have some chips and dip, but we'll get that first. So, Kicking it off, Michigan yesterday. I think it was some Casinos 400. I can't remember what it was, but
Hollywood Casino 400, I believe.
Something like that. Either that or Firekeepers, who's been a sponsor before.
Firekeepers Casino 400.
So kicking it off, top 5, Kevin Harvick scores, I believe, his 5th win of the season. Brad Keselowski 2nd, Martin Truex Jr. 3rd, Ryan Blaney comes home 4th, and Kyle Busch 5th. Some notables, Bubba Wallace came home 9th. He restarted in the top 5 with a few laps to go, fell back to 9th. Jimmy Johnson finishes 12th, and 16th was Eric Almirola, finally breaking that top 10 streak, I believe. So Almirola finally outside of the top 10. A couple of little small notes from yesterday. So 2 things on Kyle Busch. One, Kyle Busch was in the lead late in that race. Top 5 finish. Seemed to be at least back up front, sort of competing for a win. So what do you think about that? Do you think we could see the 18 car finally start coming back around before the playoffs?
We saw it in Kansas also, where you're finally starting to show some pace. New Hampshire, we obviously don't know what happened in New Hampshire because he cut a tire so early, but I mean, I think we're seeing it not only – I think we're finally starting to see the rest of the JGR cars finally catch up with the 11. You're starting to see Truex start to put together a couple top 5 runs. I mean, obviously, Eric Jones and Christopher Bell aren't doing so well, but you're starting to see these teams that have been struggling compared to Hamlin really start to catch up. So I think we will see Kyle Busch up front. Maybe not today because Michigan is such a track position track. So where he's starting, he might hover around that. So, but I think we'll see the 18 car. I think the 18 – they're starting to look a lot more – they're starting to look like they can actually maybe make it past around the 12. Because you would ask me beforehand, I would have said, no, they're out of the round of 12. Now, I could see them at least going to the round of 8.
Right. You know, it's something where, again, I hate I didn't watch it because I couldn't see how he was up front. Was he up front for just the end of the race? Was he up there the entire day? You know, that kind of really tells you a certain amount of things of how that really is. We've seen so many times how many a guy can just kind of float around 9th, 10th all day and then kind of things fall the right way and they get a top 10 finish or a top 5 finish. But it'll be interesting. Another side note with Busch is, I don't know if you saw the video, but him and Harvick maybe got into it, maybe didn't get into it. I wasn't able to see the up-close replay, but it looked like either Harvick just touched him. I think it was more air, but Busch was leading and Harvick kind of got on that bumper and Busch forced Busch up the track. Busch, I'm sure, wasn't thrilled about it. What do you think about that? What do you think about the idea that maybe we could see Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, a rebirth of that rivalry, which has been one of the great ones, at least about probably the last 10 years, kind of earlier in the decade, in the mid-2010s?
I don't think we're going to see it because Kevin Harvick, he's not the same driver he was in like the mid-2010s. He's so much more calm. He's so much more relaxed. Maybe like, you know, I don't think you're going to see them throwing hands. You might see Kyle Busch try to do something, but I don't think Harvick is going to – he's not that kind of driver anymore. As for the replay, I saw it and it looked like it would have looked very similar to what happened in Texas 2018 in the spring race, where I believe it was either Bowman or Hamlin. They got underneath one another, but the air pretty much like got packed onto them and they spun out, and that's what caused the wreck. So it was very similar. We haven't seen anything like that, like I said, since 2018. So that's what I think that was. Pretty much like Harvick just got, in the right spot to where the air disrupted Kyle Busch, and that's what got him in the wall.
Yeah, I figured it was something too. I doubt it was anything intentional with Harvick. Harvick had the faster car anyways. He would probably made it eventually around him. I hate that we didn't get to see it yesterday because I know the choose cone rule, obviously, that's full time now, which is great. Place like Michigan is where you need to see it. And I heard the bottom actually was a place to restart and you could get the lead yesterday. So that sounds pretty exciting to hear that both lanes could potentially have success. And looking for today's race, today we got the Consumer Energy 400, another 312-mile race, which I'm really excited. I heard everybody really enjoyed the length of yesterday's race. So I'm really intrigued to see that. It's only 312 miles, which sounds like the perfect length for a Michigan race. In our front row, remember, they didn't invert at the top 20. So Chris Buescher is on the pole, Clint Boyer third, and then even more playoff implications. Remember this. We'll talk about playoffs here in just a minute. Tyler Reddick starts third. So really big track position for Reddick to start this race. And we won't get too far into it, but Reddick is only a couple of stages, out of the playoff picture right now in terms of points. So if he could have a good stage or two today, he could really do some damage closing in on the start line. We won't say how many points he is away yet because we'll discuss it in a minute. But I feel like that's really notable is Clint Boyer second, Tyler Reddick third, big playoff implications to start the day. What do you think? Reddick's already up front early. Could we see him get up front and maybe compete for a win?
I mentioned it earlier. Michigan, like with this current aero package, it's so track position heavy. If you look at the top 10 finishers of yesterday's race, only 3 of them started outside the top 10, and only 1 of them started outside the top 20, which was Bubba Wallace, who started 24th. So track position, I think, is going to be huge. You're going to see a couple fast guys, make it to the front, maybe like Hamlin or Blaney or Harvick. But I think like the guys who are up front now, they're going to have a best shot at the end, especially with the shortened length in the race.
So with that said, who do you have today taking home the checkered flag in the Consumers Energy 400 at Michigan?
All right. So like I said before, with track position. So here's who I got. So I took a look at 4 drivers who are inside the top 10 starting, or inside the top 12 starting, that I think have a decent shot. And that's Reddick, Almirola, Johnson, and DiBenedetto. Reddick, obviously, he's inside the cone line. He's won at Michigan the Xfinity Series last year. I believe it was the first race. Almirola, like his top 10 streak just ended, but he's in a Ford. The Fords are always fast at Michigan. I expect to see Almirola somewhere in the top 10 today. Jimmy Johnson, Michigan's not really one of his better tracks. But he's slowly been starting to put races together. He's got 2 12th place finishes in a row, which feels like a win at this point. So the 48 car, they could mix it here and there. I believe they're starting 9th. And Matt DiBenedetto, again, the Ford camp is always really strong here. The Wood brothers are pretty much a 4th Penske car, kind of. So he's starting 6th, I believe. So I think Matt DiBenedetto will also be really good. Some notables outside the top 5, Blaney, Harvick, Hamlin, Keselowski, pretty much the top 4 drivers all season long. My race winner pick, I'm going a little bit out of the box here. Matt DiBenedetto, I think the track position is going to help him.
Dude, I almost picked him. Here's why. I'm going to go with the low-hanging fruit. I'll go ahead and get my pick out of the way because it's boring. It's Kevin Harvick. I looked at what he did at Pocono when he ran a doubleheader, and he won and then finished 2nd. So getting up through the field is not a big deal for him. I'm sure it's the same car. He was by far the best car. He led 92 of 161 laps yesterday. Should have no problems getting up through the field. But I've had a feeling about DiBenedetto for a few days. Was really shocked. I believe he finished 15th yesterday based on how they're lining up. Because I thought about the 21 car. So even when Paul Menard was here, that 21 car always ran fairly well at Michigan. Ford's got that power at Michigan. And so I think DiBenedetto is a sneaky pick today. And I feel like he could be a legitimate underdog to win this race today. Really shocked to see his result from yesterday. Not sure what really happened there. I would assume they'd make some adjustments or going to make some adjustments. But I think DiBenedetto, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he is a guy to watch out for. Low-hanging fruit, taking Harvick to win it. but I think the Benedetto is a solid pick. So I'm proud of you there. Your picks are slowly starting to make a little bit more sense.
Oh, wait till we get to Daytona. Wait till we get to Daytona.
You have something crazy for Daytona.
Not the road course, the oval.
Oh, I know which one you're waiting for. I'm talking about
road. Oh yeah, I'm waiting. This is what I've been waiting for this one all year.
That'll be exciting there. But so Kevin Harvick, Matty D. I think Matty D is a very good pick. I think Tyler Reddick is a guy to watch. It's going to be a fun race. And if you notice, every time we've had a doubleheader thus far, it's been a second race has been the better race. At Darlington, we had two decently good races, but that second race back was a very good race. At Pocono, I remember the first Pocono race was kind of just riding around. It is what it is. The second Pocono race was a very decent race. And so here we are again. I think we're going to see a decent race today. Unfortunately, I don't really have a way to judge it off of yesterday. It seems like yesterday was fairly tame, but, obviously we did have a couple of overtimes. But, we'll see how it goes in terms of racing today. So now looking at the playoffs, just taking a quick look at kind of the cut line, the first four in, the first four out right now. Kyle Busch still not technically locked in, 13th in points. He's 111 points up, so just under two races. So you would imagine here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, unless he has a dramatic collapse, that we should see Kyle lock himself in on points. 14th is really where it starts picking up business. Clint Bowyer sits 14th in points. He's just 41 points above the cut. So if Clint Bowyer has an iconic Clint Bowyer day at any moment, he could really be next to the cut line. We know how Bowyer works. He's liable to wreck 1 week and then run top 5 the next week and then run 12th 1 week and do all that. Matt DiBenedetto, your race-winning pick, my sleeper pick, he's 40 points above the cut. So that's been a team that it felt like they needed to stop the bleeding, but they're kind of right where they have been. You're always nervous. The Wood Brothers typically doesn't make the playoffs. And here they are. Matt DiBenedetto sitting right here trying to help that team make the playoffs, make his first ever playoffs. And then William Byron in 16th, just 16 points above the cutoff line. Hendrick Motorsports, you say this now, but heck, Hendrick Motorsports could potentially see half of their cars not make the postseason. So Byron right here, really hanging on. Of the first four in, what do you think? If we were going to see either Bowyer, DiBenedetto, or Byron fall out, which one of those three would you pick to fall out of the top 12 or top 16?
I'm going to go with Byron because, listen, he doesn't have any top 5s this season. He only has 6 top 10s. That 24 team is just they're not – I don't know what is going on with that 24 team. They've taken a major step back compared to last year. And even last year, they really made strides. They got 5 top 10s, 5 top 5s, 13 top 10s. Only 6 top 10s, no top 5s. There's nothing. We'll get to this, when we talk about William Byron later, but he hasn't, other than Kansas, he's really not shown clutch performance or a performance where I think he has a chance of winning the race. And I think that's really going to hurt him when you guys, behind him like Reddick, who's shown that, there's a couple races you could argue he could have won this year. Eric Jones, he's in the Toyota car,
I think you make a lot of good sense because he'd be my pick too, because Byron's team does not look ready to win, but it just feels like in one of these last 5 races, we're going to have another guy that is not in the top 16 win a race. It just feels like it's that type of season. We've got today with unique starting order with the invert. You've got the road course next week, which people got to remember, when they take the green flag next week, they have not touched the road course once. Most of the field has never started a race on the road course. Their only laps on that road course will be the pace laps. Mind-blowing that they're doing this, but that is what is happening next week for the Cup race, really for all the races. So, next week is a wild card for sure. Unfortunately, you really don't have road course ringers anymore. So I don't think there's not an AJ Allmendinger or a Marcus Ambrose that you could really look at and say this could be the guy. I think you could maybe see like a Matt DiBenedetto, decent road racer. He can maybe have a shot, maybe a Michael McDowell. It'll probably be your regular host of characters up to the front, but that's going to be huge. And then you look, I'm trying to think. I feel like you got the Dover doubleheader, which Dover is Dover, but maybe you could see a guy like Jimmy Johnson find some old glory and win at Dover. And then to finish it off, Daytona. Let's not forget the regular season finale is on the high banks of back in Daytona, not the road course, plate racing. Anybody could win it. And there is a legitimate chance you could see a Bubba Wallace, a Tyler Reddick, a Michael McDowell, a John Hunter Nemechek, or whoever you want win the race. I mean, you have a guy like Ryan Preece who has had the worst season ever, and if he's in the top 30 points, could win that race and make the playoff. So I'm definitely vibing with you there. William Byron, I do think if anybody's going to fall out, will be him. Looking at the first four out right now, Eric Jones, it's been a controversial week with him. Obviously, Levine Family Racing announced that they have been sold, and Jones obviously announced he will not return to the 20 car. The toxicity is, like, as I like to call it, of Joe Gibbs Racing continues. Christopher Bell's going to move to the 20 car regardless of what anybody tries to tell you. Tyler Reddick, the guy that me and you were both watching today, starting in third, he is 19 points out. And this is what I was talking about, 19 points out. You know, people can complain about stage racing all they want, but without stages, all we would have to wait for is the end of the day. Tyler Reddick could single-handedly change his playoff fate within the first two stages of today's race. If he gains, let's say, 5 points and another 6 points, he's done cut that from 19 points to an 8-point deficit. Okay, he finishes 6 spots ahead of William Byron. Okay, now he's only behind 2 points because of stage racing, and that's why it's so huge in the playoff format. So that's why I wanted to mention him earlier. Only 19 points back. Then Jimmy Jam sitting in 19th, 22 points out, trying to stop the bleeding of the 48 car. He needs to catch a break. Hopefully gets a top 10 result and he can win.
I want to mention something. This is the first time since Pocono that Jimmy Johnson has gained points on the cut line. Last week he was minus 25. Right now he's minus 22. It's baby steps.
Maybe he'll go from gaining points to finding victory lane. So, and then 20th in the fourth right now is Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is in another whole ball field. He's 123 points out. That team is going to need to win, but he is one of the first 4 out, so we always try to keep it an even 4 in, 4 out. Bubba Wallace sitting in 20th. Supposedly big things coming for that team here in a couple of weeks, so we will see what that announcement is. But with that being said, let's get into our feature discussion of the day, and that is a game we're going to call Ship or Dip. So the way this works is we've got 7 drivers, and we're going to discuss, will they win a Cup Series championship, a.k.a. Ship, or will they not? We're dipping out on them. So Ship or Dip. We'll start off. I'm going to say a driver. Armany's going to give his answer, a little bit why. I'll do the same thing. We'll move on. We've got 7 different drivers we're going to talk about. And first is Armany's pick for today, my sleeper pick for today, and that is Matt DiBenedetto. Armany, Matt DiBenedetto, Ship or Dip?
All right, so here. I got some pros, I got some cons. So he's shown flashes of talent. Obviously, with the Bristol night race, he's finished second at Vegas. That team's had top 5 speed. His talent, I think, could. And he doesn't wreck equipment. So that's especially, when it comes to like DNFs, gaining points, he can gain points, if things go his way. The cons, however, are he's still very unproven. I mean, he's only been in the sport since 2015. I mean, he got beat up by Brett Moffitt for Rookie of the Year. He's still winless in the Cup Series. And the thing about Matt DiBenedetto is his future is still very uncertain. I mean, for all we know, there's a good chance he doesn't even race in the Cup Series next year because obviously we don't know what's going to happen with that 21 car next year. So Matt DiBenedetto, especially because if he keeps moving from team to team every single time, kind of like what happened with Daniel Suarez, you're never going to get that footing. You're never going to build that long-term chemistry that you're going to need to win a championship. So Matt DiBenedetto, Ship or Dip? I want to say Ship just because of how uncertain he is, how unproven, he's still winless. I'm going to have to go with Dip for Dibby.
Dip and
Dibby.
I'm going to have to call you out. I don't think this man even belonged on this list. Definitely Dip. I'll dip again, double dip, triple dip, quadruple dip. Matt DiBenedetto, great guy. I want to see him win. I really, really want to see him stay in that 21 car. Obviously, with Brad Keselowski re-signing at Penske this week, unless Penske has a 4th car or Cindric says I'll stay another year in Xfinity, which doesn't seem likely, especially when you've won 4 races in a row. I think it's been 4 races in a row.
No, 3 in a row, a second, and a win.
Right. When you're having a career run like he's having right now, a video game run that he's having right now, Tim Cindric works for Penske. Most logical is that Cindric will get the 21 car. I'm not saying there's any rumors of that, but that's just the most logical step that we have seen that everyone would imagine. So there's a good chance to Benedetto. I think he's going to be somewhere. I mean, what if he goes to the 43 car? What if he goes to somewhere else? He could be somewhere next year, and that's obviously the 42. You never know what could happen. But even if he lands somewhere, DiBenedetto has not proven he can win. And so far, he hasn't necessarily had the equipment. This is by far the best equipment he's had. And with this equipment, he has outran Paul Menard. He's looking to make the playoffs. He's trying to compete for some races. DiBenedetto is impressed me a lot this year. He's doing a great job. But we don't even know if he's going to be around. And even so, I just don't know if he has the straight up – you look at a guy like Tyler Reddick, who we'll discuss a little bit later. He doesn't have winning equipment, but you see flashes of this kid has got it. DiBenedetto, you've seen that, but it's not as obvious. DiBenedetto's not up leading races. He's not up there catching the leaders. He's not putting himself in a position to win races. He's getting there. He's getting closer, but he's not quite there. So Matt DiBenedetto, a big, major, double, triple, quadruple dip. For me, he will not win a Cup Series championship.
We're dipping Dibby.
Yeah, so we both got dip. We both agree on there. Next one, and if you're just coming in, ship or dip. Ship is you will one day win a Cup Series championship. Dip is you won't. Number 2 on our list, William Byron. William Byron, obviously, in his 3rd full-time Cup Series season in the iconic 24 car. A guy that is not quite won a Cup Series race yet. We've kind of talked about how he's. I'll save this for when I give my response here in a second, but. Let's just say he hasn't quite been what everybody expected to this extent. Armani, William Byron, ship or dip?
All right, so William Byron, he's a young driver. He's only, I believe, like 22 years old. He has time to develop, time to progress. He dominated the lower series, so he has something on his resume. And he's got 7-time crew chief Chad Canals. Granted how long he stays above the pit boxes, but he's got the foundation to do it. Problem is, he hasn't really done anything with that foundation. He just stayed pretty much just like what happened is the foundation was non-existent in 2018. They built a foundation in 2019, and towards the end of the year, they were starting, build on that foundation. And then this year, they just went back to the base form of the foundation. I mean, his rookie season was like the worst rookie season for HMS cars since, I believe, Brian Vickers. 2020 has been a down year from last year. We mentioned it. He had 0 top 5s, only 6 top 10s in 21 races on the bubble in the 24 car. He's winless at 2.5 seasons, but what's not really winless at 2.5 seasons. What's scary is that he hasn't really shown winning speed. It's like he can go out there and win. I mean, Chase Elliott took 2.5 years to win, but he's shown 7 or 8 second place finishes. So you knew he can win. It was just a matter of when, not if. Even Ryan Blaney. Not really in his rookie year, but in his sophomore season, especially at that Texas race, the first Texas race, he dominated that race. And obviously, he came in clutch at Pocono. Eric Jones, he showed flashes also. Suarez, I mean, even Daniel Suarez in his 2nd season, in that 2nd Pocono race, he could have very well won that race.
It is amazing that you just timed this. Breaking news, going to backup cars and to the rear today, pole sitter Chris Buescher, 3rd place, Tyler Reddick. 5th place, Eric Almirola. William Byron will end up on the front row.
Oh, my Lord.
We're literally discussing this.
I knew Reddick was going to the backup car because he said it on Twitter.
Yeah.
But, yeah, back to what I was saying, Byron, besides Martinsville last year, and even then, he kind of just showed up in, the last 10 laps. He hasn't really shown any time in his Cup career that he could just go out and win a race. So, I mean, if you can't do that, what makes you think you're going to go out and win a championship? So, William Byron, dip all the guacamole you can. I mean, if you would have asked me when he was coming in 2017, I would have said absolutely. Now, I mean, I think he'll be like a Casey Kane in all honesty, if he's lucky.
I think this is definitely a case of us probably predicting something that's too. Most of these guys on this list are predicting just a gut feeling. William Byron, we could see next year he pick up the pace, start winning 5 races a year, and he's definitely in the position to win races. But you notice a lot of good things. We're seeing Eric Jones He's getting bounced at Joe Gibbs Racing. Well, he's ran better than William Byron. William, he's won 2 races. William Byron hasn't really been close to a win. His closest to a win was about a month ago when pit strategy put him in the front late in the going, and they still weren't able to necessarily pull that off. So, this is a situation. Here's the thing about William Byron is he's going to have another 20 years probably to try. That's where he can get you, is when you get another 20 years try to win a championship, you might get one along the way. And we just don't know where he's going to be. Will he be at Hendrick? Will Hendrick be around? Will they be good? Will they be great? You never know. But for now, I will say this. Big-ass dip. Right now, William Byron not winning a championship. In my, again, like Armany, if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said, of course, down the road, he's got it all over him. And maybe, again, this is us just jumping at a gut feeling. And they could flip the switch a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You never freaking know. But right now, he just has not adjusted to these Cup cars the way that everybody thought he would. It is a hard adjustment these days. But right now, William Byron also dip. Number 3 on the list, we've got a man that was of many conversations this week, and that is Mr. Eric Jones. Obviously announced that he will be out of the 20 car starting next season with Levine Family Racing shutting down Christopher Bell. Even though it hasn't been official, it might as well be official that Bell will go to the 20 car. And we will see Eric Jones walk away. He'll have to find another ride for next year. We do not know what that ride is. So, Armany, Eric Jones, ship or dip.
All right, Eric Jones. Like I said, with Eric Jones, he's a proven winner in the Cup Series. He can get it done. He has a lot of promise, young, talented driver. But Eric Jones, it's weird because you want to say he's underperformed in the 20 car. And there's no going through that. But in my opinion, just that whole 20 team in general, I mean, Chris Gale, I don't think is the best crew chief in the world. That pit crew has made so many mistakes, so many revolving doors. I think that whole 20 team in general has just been, it's just bad. And, I mean, people want Eric Jones to be up front, like Kyle Busch, Hamlin, Truex, which is like, look, he's not going to do a fourth-year driver. He's not going to do the same thing as his 15-plus-year experienced Hall of Fame teammates. However, when they're running top 5 and he's running like 19th, that's an issue. It'd be different if he's running like top 7th or 10th. It's like, okay, it's expected. When he's running outside the top 15 a lot of time, that's an issue. So, Eric Jones, I honestly think it could go either way, honestly. Though, based on his performance, I'm going to have to say dip. But I feel like it could go either way just because he has the talent, I believe, to go out there and win a championship. And I think he can make, if he didn't have the horrendous luck he's had in the playoffs, he'd probably make it to the round of 12 at least once. So I'm going to say dip for Eric Jones, but I think there's a case to be made where it could go either way.
Right. So far, Armany has 3 dips between DiBenedetto, Byron, and Jones, and I have 3 dips as well. Eric Jones, again, we've mentioned it. Could he be Joey Logano 2.0 and leave Gibbs with, I believe, 2 career wins and go on to flourish and be this huge success? There's a fair chance he could be. The problem is right now we don't even know where the hell he's going to be. I mean, if he goes to the 48 car, that could be a huge move. If he goes to the 43 car or the 42 car, you just don't know the situation at this point. I'm assuming he's severing all ties with TRD. For one, there's not even another ride. And 2, I probably wouldn't like the way I was treated anyway, so I'm going to roll out to somewhere else who's going to care about me. Eric Jones is a weird guy because he was the William Byron before William Byron was around. I mean, he was that kid that you're like, there's no way this guy's, he's a can't-miss Cup Series product. Ran well in trucks, was a truck champion, should have been an Xfinity Series champion, but wasn't. He was just that kind of guy. So, Eric Jones, you just do not know. I don't think he's the driver that Joey Logano is, but hell, we didn't think Joey Logano was the driver Joey Logano was when he left. So right now, you'd have to go dip. Even in the 20 car, that's some really good equipment, even though it is probably the 4th car at Gibbs. He's not done what he needed to do all the time. I mean, you look at him right now, he's on the outside of the playoffs, 17th in points. I mean, your Gibbs car, in theory, you should be able to outrun the 21 car. Characters like that. So right now, I would agree with you. We got to go dip. Number 4 driver on the list, just getting past halfway through. First, really exciting guy for us to really talk about here that I think we could see some different opinions on, and that is Mr. Tyler Reddick. So, Armani, Tyler Reddick, who is going to be your future driver from what I'm hearing as Jimmy Johnson retires. Chip or dip, will Armani get to see his favorite driver of the future win a championship?
All right, Tyler Reddick. Now this is I'm excited for this one. Two-time Xfinity champion. The man outperforms his equipment. He's outperforming Austin Dillon. Yes, Austin Dillon has a win. Granted, if Reddick doesn't make the playoffs, it's going to show in the record book he finished better, but let's be honest, Reddick is outperforming Austin Dillon. And the talent that this guy has is immeasurable. I mean, we talk about Christopher Bell's talent. We talk about Chase. Tyler Reddick, I think he could be the future of this youth movement. That's how much I think this Tyler Reddick has in talent. So, the only cons that's really I see from Reddick is RCR. That's like the number one thing. RCR if he stays with RCR, which is already announced he's going to stay with them in 2021, can he lead RCR because he's going to be the leader? Can he lead RCR to back to the glory days of Dale Earnhardt and Kevin Harvick to go out and actually compete for championships? It's all going to depend on RCR, in my opinion. It's kind of like when Max Verstappen Red Bull Formula One. You know Verstappen has the talent, which he just won actually earlier today. But can that team, compensate the talent? I believe the same thing with Reddick and RCR. And another thing, too, it's a little thing here and there, may come to bite him maybe once or twice, competing for a title, is sometimes when he rides the wall, he rides the wall like him and the wall are like this separate. There might be some time where he smacks the wall and then, he cuts a tire down and then a top 5 day can turn into like a sub 20th day. And he could cost himself some points from there. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, especially with the composite bodies coming to the next gen car. But that's a little something to hinder. But Tyler Reddick, will he be ship or dip? I'm going to go with ship. I think he has the talent to do so. From where RCR was last year to where they are now, it's shown that Reddick has just massively improved that program. And I think Reddick has a very good shot at, winning the championship.
Me and you have a very good chance of running the table today. Through 4 drivers, we agree. Tyler Reddick, I'm going to have to go ship. There's just too much talent there right now. I mean, he is, I'd say all the time that Chase Elliott's the most talented youngster in the sport, and to this point, he still is. Just from what he's done of the next generation of talent. But Tyler Reddick is taking that place of, especially with a guy like Kyle Larson kind of gone, maybe the most pure driver we have right now. Tyler Reddick is just raw talent at its finest, and he's still got to learn to put some races together. But that team has been really exciting to see. I mean, I think the single reason the 3 car even has a win this year is because that 8 team has had to help them step up their performance. It had helped RCR find performance this year. So Tyler Reddick, I doubt he stays at RCR his entire career unless RC and that bunch just find a huge amount of speed in the next couple of years. You could maybe see him go to a bigger team. There was rumors him in the 48 car, which we know that's probably not going to happen. Things of that nature. But I think Reddick is a guy that's going to be around for a good amount of time. He's got the world at his fingertips, really. I mean, especially the way he keeps running. The only thing that may ever get him in trouble is his Twitter fingers sometimes. But I would have to agree with you. Tyler Reddick, I think, is going to be around a long, long time. And right now, he is the first driver we have discussed today where I would say championship is in the future. Driver number 5 on the list, a next controversial driver, not really a controversial driver, but a fan favorite of the next generation, someone that me and you definitely had opinions on, and that is Sir Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, Armani, kick us off. Ship or dip on the Twitter.
Okay, so Ryan Blaney. So let's see here. So he's a young driver with promise, obviously, and then again, that's pretty much most of these drivers on this list. He's only had 1 winless season his entire career. 2016, his rookie year. So he can win. Like he really has never had a season. Besides 2016, he's never had a season where you doubt he's gonna win. He's not gonna win a race. It seems like he has a long-term future with Penske again. And that's going to be key when it comes to chemistry and building that foundation and growing on it. Like I've said before with like Eric Jones and Matt DiBenedetto and Daniel Suarez, if you keep moving around everywhere all the time, you're never going to get that foundation. You're just going to keep, you're going to be more worried about where you're going to be driving next year more than, okay, let me go win this championship. And another thing, he's got championship winning crew chief Todd Gordon. that's really helped Blaney. Blaney before then was like, like a bottom half of the top 10 driver, like around like the 8th to ninth portion of the points. Now he's in the top 5 in points. He looks like one of the championship favorites besides Harvick and Hamlin. He's shown race winning speed, obviously with Texas and Auto Club. There's countless races that you can put on that list. Now here are the cons. Me and you talked about this last year, especially Ryan Blaney. He's like the bench. He was, maybe still is, but he was the benchmark for inconsistent drivers. We talked about that so many times last year. He seems to be cleaning that up as of late, but that's still like kind of like how with Hamlin, we'll get to Hamlin later, and like choking titles. That's kind of like an asterisk on Blaney's career. He has a lot of bad luck. I mean, you've seen it with Texas, you've seen it with Kentucky, just all these races. I mean, you got to put bad luck in there when it happens to a driver like Ryan Blaney, I feel. Going back to how he hasn't had a winless season since 2016, all his year. Crash! You got to crash! All right, back to what I was saying before, I pulled my headphones. He only wins one race a year. After that, it's kind of like Kurt Busch. He wins one race a year, and then he's done. That seems to be changing this year, but we have to wait and see. That could, I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it like Carl Edwards in 2011. He nearly won that title with one win. Obviously, Kenseth in 2003. Granted, it's a different format, but I mean, think about it. Matt Crafton won a championship without winning at all last year. Kyle Busch, he won one race in the playoffs last year, and that was the one that he needed to win the championship. So you can get away with winning one race and winning the title in really any format, let's be honest here. And another thing, too, we've never really seen Ryan Blaney in a title race where, because like I said before, he was always like 7th to 8th. Even those 2 years he made the round of 8, you knew, okay, he's not going to make the championship for 2017 and 2019. This is really the first year we've seen Blaney as maybe a true championship contender, and this year is where we're really going to see if Blaney can handle that pressure, especially when we get to rounds like the round of 8 and the round of 12. Will he handle the pressure to be able to keep up the consistency that he's building to make it to the championship 4? And the championship 4 is in Phoenix, so, I mean, if it stays at Phoenix, which it sounds like it's going to, I mean, he's not bad. If he's really good at Phoenix, he has a couple poles there. He has a couple top 5s there. So, ship or dip for Blaney. You know what? I'm gonna go with ship. I think if he stays at Penske, if he stays with Todd Gordon, I think I think that one of these days, one of these years they will get it together, and it very well could be this year. So I'm gonna go with ship for Blaney, but it's very close.
Well, I'm gonna tip my hat to you. Making the wrong pick. I am going to go dip on Ryan Blaney. Now, I will say this. If there's any pick here I'm going to potentially regret, this is probably the chance with Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, we've talked about it time and time again. He is not consistent. Now, we don't know what we're going to get with the new schedule. Maybe that pretends, that can play to his favor. But Ryan Blaney, even though we were in a championship format where wins are really all that matters, especially wins in the playoffs, he is not consistent enough in general or the playoffs to really, in my opinion, if they stay with this format for the long haul, which it looks like we will, to make a championship run. Now, I'm sure, Blaney's another cat. It's going to be around another 15, 20 years. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to get here and to win a championship. But right now, I would go dip on Ryan Blaney, no championship because of that consistency. Looking at a stat line, I'm a big proponent. I don't know why. This is just something like ingrained in my head. Like, most champions, you at least have 20 to 25 top 10s. You have multiple wins. Ryan Blaney, like you said, has never won more than one race. In his best career year, which was last year, he only had 18 top 10s. He's on track to match that this year. Now, that's just more of a preference thing for me, what I look for in champions. But most champions, you see them, 23, 24, 25 top 10s. And that just lets you know there's a chunk of weeks that guys are just flat out outrunning the 12th car. And a lot of it's been bad luck. And Ryan has worked on that. But in my opinion, we finally have our first disagreement. Armani picks ship. I pick dip. So dip would be Ryan Blaney does not win a Cup Series championship down the road. I think he's going to be maybe he could be a Denny Hamlin-esque driver. We see him win some big races, win a chunk of races, but not a championship. So We got 2 drivers left, and if
I'm
you're
going
just
on the cruise. He's going with the guac.
so we got 2 drivers left. If you're just now joining us, ship means we do think they'll win a championship one day. Dip means they won't. With 2 drivers left. The next one of my personal favorites here, and that is Mr. Chase Elliott. Armani, kick us off. Ship or dip? Will Chase Elliott ever be series champion?
All right, so here we go. Pros, 7 wins since 2018. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk of wins. Obviously, 3 wins in 2018, 3 in 2019, and then 1 in 2020 so far. Never finished outside the top 10 in points. His lowest finish in the points is 10th last year and his rookie season. He has a top 5 points finish in 2017. He has a 6th place points finish in 2018. 3 straight round of 8 appearances. I mean, going back to it, it's not a matter of if Chase Elliott's going to make the round of 4. It's a matter of when it's going to happen. And I believe Chase Elliott right now is currently, besides Tyler Reddick, but again, RCR, that could go either way, is Chevrolet's best shot at winning a title again. I don't see Alex Bowman doing it anytime soon. Obviously, I don't see Byron doing it ever. Reddick is with RCR. Austin Dillon doesn't really have it. Kurt's coming down in his career.
Gone now, huh?
Listen, there's still hope. I'm saying he's the best shot. I'm saying right now I pick Chase Elliott over Johnson. I'm just saying. So those are the pros. The cons, they're not even really, most of them aren't really Chase Elliott. Well, I mean, they are, but like the number one con, in my opinion, is Alan Gustafson. I don't know if Alan Gustafson just loves seeing that his pit crew work, or he just loves seeing that 9 car in the pit box. But it seems like every single time there's a caution, Alan Gustafson is like, go take tires, fuel, tires. Like just every time we've seen the Coke 600, we've seen at Indianapolis where he's running top 5, and then for some reason Alan Gustafson's like, hey, come take 4 tires, and he finishes like outside the top 10. I believe the same thing happened in Michigan. Same thing would, if the choose cone rule would have never happened, Chase Elliott probably would have finished outside the top 15 again, because Alan Gustafson has such an infatuation for seeing that number 9 white and blue car on pit road. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's got a hard on for something. I don't know what it is. So I think Alan Gustafson is going to be like Chase Elliott's really biggest like roadblock. And it's a shame too, because I think he and Chase Elliott have a lot of really good, I think they have some of the best chemistry between driver and crew chief in the garage. It's literally just Alan Gustafson, which is a shame, because you have good crew chiefs, like you have good crew chiefs that just don't mesh well with drivers, and then it doesn't work out well. And then you have drivers that mesh well with their crew chiefs, and they just suck. But another thing too about Chase Elliott, he sucks at restarts. I mean, he's not good at restarts. We've seen that throughout his entire career. Yeah, you know that. I mean, we've seen it throughout his entire career. I mean, Michigan in 2016, the second race. There's a couple other races I could probably think of. Kyle Larson had the same issue, but he eventually got that figured out. Chase Elliott doesn't seem to have that figured out quite yet. I mean, obviously the Roval in 2019, granted he won that race, but still, he nearly lost it. And he needs to be more clutch in the playoffs. I mean, I know this is one thing that you always mention, that 9 team just really isn't clutch in the playoffs. They get a couple wins here. They seem to be clutch in the early rounds, but come like round of 8 time, they kind of just fizzle out. I remember back to 2018, they finished 8th, but they were like, after that, they were like 25 points in the hole already. Texas didn't really do anything. Phoenix, they got wrecked out. Even in 2017, I mean, it was a lot of bad luck here and there with Hamlin and Phoenix, but they just can't get it done. And obviously last year, the round of 8 for them last year was just abysmal. I think they had like 3 straight DNFs. So they need to be more clutch in the deeper portion of the playoffs. They can win as much as they want in the round of 16, the round of 12, but they need to come clutch in the round of 8. As for ship or dip, I mean, with how talented Chase Elliott is, with Tyler Reddick, you got to go with ship. It's going, like I said, Chase Elliott, I feel like it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when.
That is true. I agree. He is the second driver on this list that I have to go ship with, and that may be personal bias. You can say that all you want to, but he's the best young driver in the sport. Now, I would be ashamed if I did not mention he has had some consistency issues the last 2 seasons, just like Ryan Blaney. They've got to figure those out. I don't know what it is, but Chase Elliott has, remember, Chase should have probably won 3 or 4 races by now, and they found ways not to. And And also a good point you mentioned about Gustafson. Remind you, Alan Gustafson has never won a championship as a crew chief. He got close with Mark Martin back in 2009, but he has never won a championship. He's just won races. And we have seen him make many, many strategy calls over the years where you're thinking, are they trying to lose the race? So you don't see Chase Elliott typically win races off of strategy. It's off being up front. Maybe some other guys have some bad luck, and then he moves on. As to whether a championship or not, obviously I'm picking Ship. I think Chase is just too good not to. It's going to be a while, I think, and I think he could be a guy that only wins one championship in his career. But I think eventually the 9 car will win a championship. Again, we haven't seen Chase in that championship pressure yet, how he matches. He does have an Xfinity Series championship, but that was back when you still accumulated points over a season, not really a playoff. So Chase has never really dealt with a playoff in terms of making it to the finale. So it'll be intriguing how he does there. That team does have to showcase a little more consistency in the playoffs. And really, let's just be honest, have some luck in the playoffs. So him and Blaney are similar in there, but I just think he has a little bit more talent than Ryan, and that's why I put him above Ryan in terms of winning a championship. So Chip for me on Chase Elliott. And one driver left to go. We'll make this one quick with a few minutes left in the show, and that is Dennis the Menace, Sir Denny Hamlin, the oldest driver on our list, I believe, by a fair decent amount of years. Denny obviously has been close a couple of times. People should know what my opinion on this is, but just in case, I'll give it a second. Armani, ship or dip, Denny Hamlin.
All right, so I'll start off with the cons. The team cracks under title pressure. 2010 and 2019 are examples. Hamlin's actually quite hot-headed. People don't really talk about it, but he's a quite hot-headed driver. Especially, you've seen it last year at Martinsville. You've seen it countless other. Obviously, 2017 at Martinsville. He just seems to be a hot-headed driver. But the pros, he's a veteran, obviously. That veteran experience. He's a Hall of Fame driver. 40-plus wins. He's in a JGR Toyota. Unless they just fall off the face of the earth, he's going to be competitive for the rest of his career. He's had 11 wins in 2 years. Through 2019 and 2020, he's had 11 wins compared to 0 in 2018 and only, I believe, 2 and only 5 between 2016 and 2017. And the main reason why I picked Denny Hamlin to put him on the Carnival Cruise to ship is his crew chief, Chris Gabehart. He's top 3 crew chief for me, in my opinion. You go from winless to winning 11 races in 2 years. Chris Gabehart, he's only in his second year, and he's already he might be the next Cole Pearn. There's a very good chance he's the next Cole Pearn. Like I said, 11 wins in 2 years, a 6-win season, a 5-win season. Hamlin could very well win 3 or 4 more races this year with the pace that he's had. He's really been the only Toyota consistently throughout the entire season that has shown that they can, compete week in and week out. We've talked about Eric Jones struggles, Kyle Busch, Truex. Truex has a new crew chief. Kyle Busch is, I don't think he and Adam Stevens are clicking anymore. That whole 20 team and Eric Jones is just a dumpster fire right now. So I'm going to go with ship, yes, for Hamlin, mainly just because I think Chris Gabehart is just too good of a crew chief not to win a championship, and I think it's going to be with Hamlin.
Ooh, nice. Did not suspect that one right there. I see it, and the reason I've got to pick with what I've got to pick is because I try my best to stay consistent. If I'm end up being wrong about something, or if my mind changes, I let people know that. But in terms of what I try to say, I try to stay pretty consistent on it. So in that case, for Denny Hamlin, I have to go dip. I said last year was Denny Hamlin's last shot at a championship. Now, I will say he is making me very nervous in 2020 because that car and team have looked really, really good. I will say this, Phoenix is not a place that he's relatively known for, unlike AKA, Kevin Harvick, who's won there a billion times. So I think that is something that could hurt him down the road because you got to remember, it doesn't matter if you make it, you still got to show up that one day. And Denny Hamlin has been a guy that is known to, even though it really hasn't been his fault, sort of crack under pressure. The first chance was 2010. 2010 will always sit in my mind as the year that Denny probably should have won the championship. I believe he had the points lead on Jimmy coming into Homestead. And I think he spun out early, and then they made a bad pit call, and he pretty much handed the championship to Jimmy back in the day. And then he goes last year, and they had the tape debacle, which really wasn't Denny's fault. But he's just always been that guy that can't quite get over the hump to win a championship. Again, Mark Martin 2.0. You could argue even better in terms of actual wins and things that he's done in his career. That Denny Hamlin is the best driver without a championship in NASCAR history. But I think he stays that. I think he is this generation's Mark Martin. Denny Hamlin dipped for me just because I got to stay consistent. He's making me nervous. I do think he makes the Final Four this year. I think he does give it a run. I think Kevin Harvick it still sets in my mind somehow that Kyle Busch could make the Final Four and compete, and that was my pick before the year, and I'm trying to stay with that pick, but it's looking rough. Kevin Harvick seems to be the favorite with Denny. I gotta keep the same energy I've kept for a year and say that Denny Hamlin, that was his last shot to win a championship in a technical sense, not in the actual. He may have another opportunity in the Final Four, but I felt like if he didn't get it done last year, he wasn't ever going to get it done. So I'll stay consistent. So going through it, just a review, and then we'll get out of here. So we agreed on the first four drivers. Matt DiBenedetto, we both chose dip. William Byron, both dipped on. Eric Jones, dip. Tyler Reddick, our first championship agreement. We do think championship-wise, Tyler Reddick will get there. Ryan Blaney, you had ship on him by a small nudge. I was dip in the same sense, in a kind of a small way. I leaned more towards the dip situation. Chase Elliott, we know Chase Elliott's going to win one. Then Dennis the Menace, we disagree on. So 2 of 7, we disagree. You've got Denny winning it. I would assume you've got him winning it this year. And then I do not, just because I've got to stay consistent. I said he wasn't going to win another one or win one after last year, and here we are. So with that being said, there you have it, folks. Ship or dip. We're closing in on the 1 o'clock hour. Armani finally does not have to work for once, so he can go watch the race. I'll be watching the Cup race live in a couple of hours. So 11
out of my car.
So 11 cars are dropping to the rear, so a lot's going to shift up front. So a guy like Kevin Harvick's going to realistically be restarting like 13th. So we'll see how that goes. So with that being said, race picks. I had Kevin Harvick. He had Matt DiBenedetto, in case you weren't here for that. With that being said, it is another week of NASCAR by the numbers. You can find me at NASCAR_opinion. Obviously, we've got Armani here, my guy, the wild man at Velocity XTC. Next week, I think we're going to try to have another special guest on to discuss the Daytona Road Course. Obviously, remember that's next week, and I'm very much excited for that. I'm hoping I can at least see 2 of the 3 races. And with that being said, we're going to get out of here. I'm sure. Go ahead.
I'll say one thing. The episode that you all want to be here for is the season finale at the Daytona Oval. Oh, boy. You think I'm a wild man? Just wait for that. Just wait for that.
Oh, God. I already know who he's picking. I can't get any spoilers. But yeah, until next time, I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. Make sure you share it, subscribe, like it, whatever you do on YouTube that you would like to do to help us out. And that being said, we'll be active on Twitter all day. Make sure you follow us. We'll see you next time.